Okay, so in this problem, in order to answer this question carefully, you need to know two theorems. One is called the remainder theorem, and the other one is the factor theorem. So without performing long division, we can answer this question if we know what these two theorems are. So what is remainder theorem? The remainder theorem states that if you want to get the remainder of a polynomial, rather than doing synthetic division or long division, you can just find the value of what the function is. So here x minus 6 is what you're dividing by, right? So, if I can find what p of 6 is, whatever the answer I get is going to be the remainder. Okay, and the factor theorem says that if this x minus 6 is a factor of that polynomial, then when I find what p of 6 is, I will get a 0. So if I get a 0, the conclusion is 6 is a factor of this, or one of the zeros of this polynomial. X minus 6 is a factor of this polynomial. If I don't get a 0, then x minus 6 is not a factor of this polynomial, or x equals 6 is not the 0 of this polynomial, but I will have an answer, and that's called the remainder. So here the question is asking, explain how to easily decide whether x minus 6 is a factor of the polynomial. So if I find p of 6, the answer is if I find p of 6, and if I get an answer 0, then I can come to the conclusion that it is the factor of this polynomial. So how do I write this? If I find p of 6 equals 0, then the conclusion is x minus 6 is a factor of the given function p of x. So we can check this. So let me do first what p of 6 is. So I'll have a 6 to the power of 7 minus 5 times 6 to the power of 5 plus 2 times 6 to the power of 4 minus 6 squared plus 9, right? Okay, so let me put that in my calculator. I can do it the same way as it is given. 6 to the power of 7, I'm going to keep it the same, minus 5 times 6 to the power of 5 plus 2 times 6 to the power of 4 minus 6 squared plus 9. And when I hit enter, if I get a 0, then the conclusion is it is a factor. I don't get a 0. Okay, so this is the remainder. So the conclusion is it is not a factor of this polynomial. But that's not what the question is asking, right? No, it's not a factor. If I have to correctly answer to the question here, explain how to easily decide. So I would say, using the remainder theorem and factor theorem, if I find p of 6 and if I get 0, so that could be the answer for this problem. You don't even have to do the other part. I just for explanation I did it. But this is not a factor because the remainder is not a 0.